There is a plant that grew in Amish backyards for over 200 years. Women would harvest it, boil the roots in water, and use the liquid to wash their hair. No shampoo, no conditioner, nothing else. And their hair came out clean, soft, and full in a way you almost never see anymore. The modern world simply stopped using this plant. Not because it stopped working, but because someone figured out they could sell shampoo in a bottle with thick lather and the smell of flowers, and it was much easier to convince people that was progress. The problem is, it wasn't. In this video, I'm going to show you what this plant is, why it disappeared, what it does for your scalp that no drugstore shampoo can do, and how you can prepare it at home in under 5 minutes. If you have noticed that your hair seems to need washing every single day, or that it has grown thinner and lifeless over the years, what I am going to show you here is going to make a great deal of sense. Everything you need to get started is at Ancestral Beauty Shop. Let's begin with something that took me a long time to understand, and that once I did, completely changed the way I think about washing hair. Most people believe hair gets oily because the scalp produces too much oil, that it is a matter of genetics or diet or simply bad luck. And the obvious solution then is to wash more. Use a shampoo that cleans well, that lathers richly, that leaves that feeling of completely clean hair. The problem is that logic is entirely backwards. Your scalp produces a substance called sebum. It is not dirt, it is protection. It is what keeps the hair strand hydrated, the scalp balanced, and the follicle cells functioning properly. When you wash your hair with a conventional shampoo, the sulfates in it, the same agents that create that thick lather we have been taught to associate with cleanliness, they make no distinction between dirt and sebum. They remove everything indiscriminately. And what happens when the scalp loses its sebum all at once? It enters emergency mode. The sebaceous glands interpret that deep cleanse as a threat and respond by producing more oil faster to replenish what was taken. It is a cycle. You wash, the scalp overproduces oil to protect itself, hair gets greasy sooner, you wash again, and with each wash the cycle gets a little shorter. Has it ever happened to you that your hair needs washing every day or every other day, but when you were younger you could go a full week and it was fine? That is not your imagination. That is exactly this cycle playing out. And there is another layer to this that almost no one talks about. When the scalp stays chronically inflamed from overcleansing, follicles enter a resting phase earlier than they should. They grow less, and strands that used to be thick and full start coming in thinner. This is not just an aesthetic concern, it is the scalp asking for help in a language most of us were never taught to read. This matters, but knowing the problem without having the way out does not take you anywhere. And that is exactly where what Amish women were doing right for centuries comes in. There is a plant called Saponaria officinalis. Its common name is soapwort, and it has a history that begins long before Amish communities existed, long before America existed at all. Archaeological records suggest this plant was used as a cleansing agent for over 12,000 years. Ancient Romans cultivated it specifically to wash their bodies and hair. In the Middle Ages, Franciscan monks called it a divine gift. The first European settlers who crossed the Atlantic brought the seeds with them because it was the plant they used to wash everything from fine fabrics to hair. It naturalized in American soil and began growing wild in fields and roadsides throughout Pennsylvania, right where Amish and Pennsylvania Dutch communities put down roots. That was not a coincidence. That was continuity. But what does this plant actually do that justifies 12,000 years of use? The root of soapwort is one of the most concentrated sources in the world of compounds called saponins. And saponins are, in simple terms, plant-based surfactants. They do what sulfates do, only in a completely different way. Think of it like this. A surfactant is any substance that can bind to both water and oil at the same time. That is what makes cleansing possible at all, because dirt and oil do not dissolve in plain water. The sulfate in conventional shampoo does this aggressively, at a high pH, stripping everything in its path. Saponins do the same thing at a pH of 5, which is exactly the natural pH of a healthy scalp. They clean without attacking, without sending the scalp into that emergency mode I described earlier. And there is one detail that I think is the most powerful image in all of this. Museum conservators around the world, people who spend their entire careers preserving medieval textiles that are 6, 7, 800 years old, fabrics so fragile that no modern detergent can touch them without causing damage. They use soapwort decoction to clean those pieces, because it is the only cleansing agent that is both effective enough and gentle enough at the same time. If it is gentle enough for a medieval museum textile, think about what it does for your scalp. Studies have documented that regular use of soapwort as a shampoo reduces oiliness, improves strand texture, and decreases scalp flaking without the rebound effects that conventional shampoo creates. Not because it is magic, because the pH is right, the cleansing mechanism is compatible with scalp biology, and that vicious cycle of stress and compensation simply does not happen. That is what Amish women knew in a practical, intuitive way, passed from mother to daughter across generations. Science took centuries to put it into laboratory language, but the result is the same. Now comes the part most people ask about. All right, I understand the plant, I understand the science, but how do I actually use this today? The traditional method is simple, and you can replicate it in any kitchen. You will need dried soapwort root. It is not difficult to find. Herbal shops usually carry it, and you can find it online easily as well. The root is the part with the highest concentration of saponins, and it is the part you want. Place a full tablespoon of dried root in 2 cups of cold water. Bring it to a low boil and let it simmer for 20 to 30 minutes. This is a decoction, not an infusion. The difference matters here because the root needs sustained heat to release the saponins properly. Once it is cooled, strain it well and keep the liquid. That is your base. You can use it as is or add a few drops of rosemary or lavender essential oil if you want a more pleasant scent, because soapwort on its own has a neutral, lightly earthy smell. When you are ready to use it, apply it directly to wet hair at the scalp. Massage with your fingertips for 2 to 3 minutes and rinse thoroughly. One thing you need to know going in: there will be no thick lather. There may be a light foam when you massage, but nothing like conventional shampoo. And I need you to hear this clearly, because this is exactly where most people give up thinking it did not work. Lather is not cleanliness. Lather is what the personal care industry trained us to associate with cleanliness because it made products easier to sell. Soapwort cleans without thick foam because it does not strip. And the result you will feel after your hair dries, not during the wash. In the first few uses, it is normal for hair to go through a transition period of 1 to 2 weeks, while the scalp stops overproducing sebum and returns to balance. Be patient with that process. What is happening in that window is your scalp learning that it no longer needs to go into emergency mode. Amish women made this decoction fresh before each wash, or prepared a larger batch and kept it in a cool place for up to 3 days. No preservatives, no additives, made, used, and done. If you want to go deeper into this and have access to the full list of plants and rituals that are part of this tradition, with exact proportions and the variations I have researched, everything is compiled at Ancestral Beauty Shop. That is where I bring together everything that goes beyond what fits in a single video. So let me bring together what we covered here. Conventional shampoo is not neutral. It has a mechanism that works against your scalp, creating a cycle of oiliness and washing that gets worse over time. Amish women did not have this problem because they had different hair than you. They did not have it because they were using a plant that cleans the right way, with the right chemistry,